Okay, I want to do a quick video on the calculator functionality for your TI-84 to be successful in your Unit 4 portfolio test number 4. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is clear the calculator's memory. You don't know what a previous student has been doing on the calculator, working in a different math where you need to change something in the mode menu that you don't want to go in and start changing things individually. So you go to second plus 7, 1, 2. If you notice on the bottom of the screen, there's a key press history here that shows that. That clears the memory. So you press clear to go back to the main screen. The first thing that you want to do when you're plotting data for regression is turn stat plot on. Stat plot is what allows you to see the actual data points on the graph, right? A graph does a scatter plot. So you want to press second and then y equals for the stat plot second feature. Press 1 to go into the first graph because we're going to be working in the graph number 1, and that's the graph we're going to be looking at. So it's highlighted off right now. You want to press enter to turn it on, and the rest of this functionality is fine. Scatter plot, yes, that type of mark is fine. All right. The second thing you want to do is go into the mode menu by pressing mode and scroll down to stat diagnostics. Stat diagnostics, if you remember, is what allows you to view the coefficient of determination, lowercase r squared for a linear function and capital R squared for a quadratic function on that menu on the calculator. So you're turning stat diagnostics on by going over to on, pressing enter to make that highlighted, and we're good to go. When you're in a menu, you can always press second and then quit to quit back out, and all of our settings are saved. Okay, entering the data. So the data is over here. I'm going to go to stat and then press 1 for the edit menu and then enter this data. 34, 108. I'm just starting at the top of my x values and then going down to the bottom, 99, 51. Okay. Now I press right to go over to my list 2, which is functioning as my y. I'm entering 5, 17, 11, 8, 14, and 5. Okay, good. So we have all our data entered. Next, we want to run the regression. So we go and pre-press stat, the stat button, go over to calculate by pressing right, the calculate menu over here. Linear regression and quadratic regression are the two regression models we're running for this test. So let's do linear first. Press 4. Now, we want to store an equation from this regression, meaning your regression equation you want to put directly into the graph so you can see it right away in the graph menu. So you do that by pressing variables, this button up here, vars, and then going over to y variables or y vars, pressing 1 for function, and then you want y1, the first equation in your graph, to be this function. So you press 1, and then it stores as y1, as you can see. Scroll down to calculate and press enter. Now my linear regression is run. So I have my lowercase r squared, my coefficient of determination, and I have my ability to write my equation now. All right, now let's take a look at the linear graph because we have our graph plugged in. All right. Okay, now you want to see this in a better window, right? You can't really see it in the way that it is in the standard graph right now. So what you want to do is go to window and then enter a minimum and maximum viewing window for x and y to get sort of like a closer look at your data. So you look at your data, you see that my minimum for x is 34 and my maximum is around 108, but it's always safe to sort of start at 0. So I'm going to put 0 in for x min. This minimum of 108, maybe I want to see up to 120, so that's along my x-axis. My scaling from 0 to 120, so I can see the hash marks, I'll go by tens. And then y minimum, my minimum value up here is a 5, right? And my max is this 17. So maybe I'm going to go from 0 to 20 for y. So I'm just going to input that real quick. And then 0 to 20, let's go by 2s to see the hash marks appropriately. Okay, press enter. And Then go to graph, and there you go. Now my data is a little bit easier to see. I can see the plotted stat points right here, right? All 6 of them. One of them is running right through the line, as you see. I can see my linear regression line very easily. All right, keeping that same window for the quadratic regression, because these data points will appear in the same spot. If you remember, my y-axis was going by 2s, and my x-axis is going by 10s. All right, so quadratic regression, same thing. Go to Stat, go back to the Calculate menu, press 5 for quadratic regression. Still want to store my quadratic regression equation as the graph now. So I'm inputting y1 for my quadratic regression equation and changing it from the linear, which was y1 before. So now I'm calculating it. And this is my quadratic regression equation with my coefficient of determination, capital R squared. Down here, my graph is in the appropriate viewing window, so you can see the curve of the quadratic function in this graph. All right, hopefully this explainer video helped you. These are all the things you'll need. They do relate to the quick directions that I've also posted in Google Classroom. If you remember, the steps were clear the calculator's memory, turn on the stat plot, turn on stat diagnostics, and then enter the data, change the graphing window if necessary. You can enter the linear and the quadratic regression then one by one. Okay, hopefully this video helped you. Take care.